Okay, you guys, well, I said I was going to do this, and I actually made one on the iPhone, but because of the way that phones work, it flipped everything over, and it was just a piece of shit video. So I decided to basically redo it, and I'm going to include my PlayStation 1 collection, because personally, I didn't get a PlayStation 1 until, 10 years later at a garage sale for $5, just so that I could get a game with it, because almost the entire time I played the PlayStation 2, it was both a PlayStation 2 and a PlayStation 1. So my experience as the PlayStation 2, which I call the king, being the greatest console ever and completely uncomputable, is the fact that it is of the PlayStation 2 and the PlayStation 1 in my mind. So, I streamed Yu-Gi-Oh! Duelist of the Roses, and I was using this. This is like a GameStop controller. This controller is actually really good. It's one of the two controllers I use. So, in here I have other controllers. This is the other controller I use, just because I really like it both being clear and blue. I have a bunch of normal controllers, but a lot of them, I've played hundreds and hundreds of hours of PlayStation, so a lot of them aren't necessarily the best quality, but this actually is pretty ergonomic and comfortable, a controller. As you can see, I think this is the first model of PlayStation 2 released in the United States. I got mine probably at 2003, I believe, for Christmas. So in here I have like an aftermarket memory card, which is 128 megabytes, which basically means that almost every single game, or PlayStation 2 game at least I own, can fit on that one card. But here is all the other cards that I had to use because I have so many games. There's also, PlayStation, there is an Xbox one in there too, but there's also, so here's an original market card, 8 megabytes. But there's also, like, PlayStation 1 cards in here. So, before I show off my PlayStation 2 collection, as I just said, let's look at my PlayStation 1 collection. So we have what is, without a doubt, one of the greatest games ever made, Resident Evil 1. I haven't played through as Chris, but I played through as Jill. Obviously, there's almost no words I can use to describe how good this game is. You just have to play it. I think it just says best PlayStation game overall on the back, for instance. I have a few Tomb Raider games. I haven't played that much Tomb Raider, ironically, though. So here's Tomb Raider: The Last Revelation. Here's one of the first games I ever played, Tomb Raider 1. It's kind of interesting now just to see how, basically, if you go back and you play this, just how different it's aged, how different 3D games are now. It's just very interesting. So we got Yu-Gi-Oh! Forbidden Memories. I got a big crack along this. I've played a little bit of this from time to time. Definitely not as much as the PlayStation 2 games. This is more similar to the actual card game, which is both good for it and bad for it, in the sense that Duelist of the Rose, which is just sitting on the top because I just live streamed it a little bit earlier today. This stands on its own as its own video game. This is just kind of like a stripped down alternate version of the card game. I mean, it's still fun if you like the franchise, but no, I guess it could be different. So here's Siphon Filter. A lot of these games, like for this, I've never played it. I got it at like a Goodwill for like a few dollars or $1 or something. Obviously every PlayStation 1 owner has these. Tony Hawk Pro Skater 1 and 2 classics. I've never beaten Silent Hill, which makes me sound like a complete faggot, but I've played Silent Hill. It just makes me feel like a homosexual to say I've never played through the entirety of it. But it is definitely outstanding. So we got Nightmare Creatures, a pretty underrated game. Again, one of the first games I ever played with my cousin that's about, I don't know, maybe 10 years older when I was a little kid. Got Metal Gear Solid 1, and again, I got this for $2 at a pawn shop. I've never actually played Metal Gear Solid. Tekken 3, I've never been a big Tekken fan. Again, $2 buy. Soul Blade, this actually, believe it or not, is the first Soul Calibur game. I think a lot of people forget that. But Soul Blade is a lot slower in its combat than a lot of the older or the newer Soul Caliburs, so it's kind of weird to go back and play it. It's still pretty fun though. So I don't know why I got this for like $1 at like a Goodwill or something again. It says that it's a PlayStation 1 game, but I haven't gotten to work on PlayStation 1, 2, or 3, so I don't know. Maybe somebody flipped out the disc and they put, because it's, I think what happened is somebody must have put the Civilization disc from a PC game into this PlayStation version of it. That's my view. I don't know. So you got Need for Speed 2. A lot of these earlier racing games on like PlayStation 1 and stuff did not age very well. NFL Blitz, which is an outstanding game. The thing is, I don't like sports games when they are actually based on the official sport. But if they're like an arcade-like sports game like this, they're very, very fun. Like, this is a great game, to be honest. Unfortunately, I don't have Spider-Man 2, but this is... The original PlayStation 1 Spider-Man is a game that I played a lot. Multiple times through. Just a classic game. Got Monopoly here. This is really functional. Actually, believe it or not, I prefer playing... If I'm going to... Like, I'll be on Discord or something, and I'll play Monopoly. I'll sit and play this one, because this is better than the version of Monopoly I last checked that was on Steam. This actually works pretty well. I mean, you're going back to PlayStation 1 graphics, but if you want to play Monopoly by yourself, this works pretty well. A lot of these are online games right here, games that I bought online and so on, that I stuck in DVD cases. Just because there was a point in time when I was trying to collect a bunch of survival horror games before PlayStation 1 games kind of started spiking a few years ago. So here's Parasite Eve. Again, like most of these games I would have never played through, and that makes me feel ashamed. So again, another disc of Parasite Eve. This is one of my favorite games on the PlayStation 1, Mortal Kombat Trilogy. And this is interesting because this is Mortal Kombat 3, but essentially they added every single character that was in 2 and 1 into 3, and then added extra characters that basically make the because there is a Mortal Kombat 3, but this is or Ultimate Mortal Kombat 3, but this is 10 times Ultimate Mortal Kombat 3. This is probably the best 2D Mortal Kombat. Well, this probably is the best Mortal Kombat period. Maybe some of the PlayStation 4 games can hold up to this, but this is an outstanding game. The problem is that you can only really play this multiplayer because the AI is just broken on it. And if anybody's played this game, they'll know what I mean. Okay, so we got Resident Evil 2, and the irony here is that I have... What is it? I have Claire Disc 2 here, which is like dual... I think this is DualShock, because the way that I bought this online, and then this is, you know, the Leon disc, but this is like not DualShock, this is like analog. So that's kind of interesting. So I have the entire Resident Evil 2, but I don't have the same set. So one of them is only, you know, that moving around only, and the other one is an analog stick game. So here's Tomb Raider 2. I just stuck in another movie case. It's like it was a Full Moon movie, like their Godzilla ripoff movie. It's kind of interesting. And here's Clock Tower, which I haven't played through, to my great shame. And then there's Macrocross Plus. Don't worry, I didn't throw away the DVDs. What I do is I put DVDs in the big binders, because again, I buy DVDs used, and I'll go to red boxes and stuff, and I just take the disc, throw it in big binders, which means it's good if you're going to like to watch something that a lot of people have on DVD. But if you're going back to something past like the 80s or the 70s, it's really hard to get anything earlier than like, I don't know, the late 70s, because people don't really get rid of those unused DVDs. So you actually have to pay out the ass for those. But if you, in the era of DVDs kind of over, but basically I got hundreds of DVDs for, you know, $1 each by going to garage sales, going to pawn shops, going to Goodwills. So here's my pile of games, and again, I just said that I have all these games. Very, very, very few of them I would have paid more than $10 for. So here we go. We have one of the. I just streamed the entire game of this. This game is very, very good, but it's too esoteric, and it has a double-edged sword in the sense that it's Yu-Gi-Oh branded. So people will be attracted to that and more people will know about it. But at the same time, it's Yu-Gi-Oh branded and it's not the card game. So people won't be interested in it and don't know about it is because they'll just assume it's the card game. I streamed this inside of my retrospective of Jurassic Park. This is a very fun game. It's basically just Zoo Tycoon with Jurassic Park. I haven't played the new one. I don't know how it is. I'll just have to get to it later. So here's the second PlayStation 2 Yu-Gi-Oh game. Again, this has nothing to do with the card game. This is a turn-based strategy game, and it's a very, very good one. I have a bunch of racing games on top, because I kind of, when I first did my video talking about my PlayStation 2 collection, I actually organized it by genre after that. So here's a bunch of racing games. So Twisted Metal Black, this is actually a really good game. And if you have War of the Monsters, which I do, the only way to unlock a certain monster is to play Twisted Metal Black and have it saved on your memory card. Okay, so we have Crazy Taxi, which is a classic game, at least for that era. Splashdown, which is a very old kind of... The thing is, and I talked about this in Need of Speed 2, oh, look at that horrible camera work, is that racing games don't age very well, and in this one particularly, I don't think it aged very well. It's kind of interesting, though, because you do jet skis instead of cars. Okay, we have I don't have Revenge on PlayStation 2. I did at one point, but now I have it on Xbox. Because there was a point where I got a 360 and I traded in most of my PlayStation 2 games like a complete idiot. And there's just certain games on PlayStation 1 or PlayStation 2. For instance, I don't know, the Jurassic Park fighting game, or obviously Burnout Revenge that I had at one point in my collection, but I no longer have. So Burnout, Burnout 2, Burnout 3, and again, this hasn't aged very well, but this game has to be, personally, in my opinion, Burnout 3 and Burnout Revenge are the best racing games ever made. So I should have a bunch of like, so this is like my strategy, or this is like just random fucking Dynasty Warriors game. The irony is I bought every single one of these games for $1, and I've never played any of them, and I've never played any Dynasty Warriors games, but I have played, and it's not in here, I've played Keshin 1, which is a turn-based it's the best real-time strategy I have ever played on a console ever. It plays like a total war game. It has numerous branching paths, so you could lose a battle and then fight a different battle. And there'll be 2 different battles that will follow in the next level, regardless of if you won or lost the previous battle. You could get 2 different battles. So it has all kinds of replay, but Keshin 2 and Keshin 3 are just weird. I tried to play Keshin 2, but this game was almost ununderstandable when I attempted to play it. Keshin 3 is going more towards Dynasty Warriors. I mean, maybe in the future, I'll try and play Keshin 2 and 3, but we'll have to get there. I guess Keshin should be at the bottom somewhere, but here's a bunch of beat-em-up games I have. So, I told Argent to play this game, but he's a pussy little faggot and he won't play it. So we have Castlevania Lament of Innocence, which I tried to play, but I got lost in immediately, as you guys know I'm pervy to do. And we have the Devil May Cry trilogy, Devil May Cry 1, 2, and 3. I haven't played that much of these ones. I've never beaten Devil May Cry 3, but I will say the Devil May Cry trilogy is a very, very high caliber trilogy of games on the PlayStation 3. And then the Beautiful Joe duology. I was trying to play through Beautiful Joe 1, and I remember it being an outstanding game, but now I think it's just okay or just good. Maybe it's just decent. Maybe I'm just a fucking pleb, but I don't know. It didn't age as well as I thought it did. Okay, so we should be getting into survival horror, and some of these are like beat 'em up horror games in there. So Lifeline, which is one of the most interesting video games ever made, because microphone required. You don't play this with a controller, or at least mostly with a controller. You actually play this by telling her what to do in a microphone. Now, my friend Black Kanye has a full Let's Play of this on his channel. I don't currently have a PlayStation 2 microphone. This was an example of a game I bought for like less than $5 in a big, huge stack of used PlayStation 2 games. Eventually, I intend to play it, but I obviously don't have the ability to do that right now. And again, to my shame, I've never even played Silent Hill 2. It's just another game I picked up right before PlayStation 1 and PlayStation 2 games started skyrocketing, especially survival horror games, just so that I can have it. I've played Silent Hill 1, but I haven't beat it, and I wanted to beat Silent Hill 1 in order to play Silent Hill 2. As everybody said, this is a competitor for both the best survival horror game and the best PlayStation 2 game. Again, other survival horror game, because there's multiple survival horror games on the PlayStation 2, which ended up being like over $100 at this point. So at one point, if I just saw a survival horror game, I just grabbed it. So a lot of the time, I haven't played some of these. So Extermination, I know nothing about. I just grabbed it because I knew if I wanted to play it later, it would be like $100. Again, this is a game I haven't played, just as I said. I saw it was used for cheap. I knew that in the future this would be like $100. It probably is right now. But this is an interesting survival horror game because you're in an artificial island which is collapsing. There's not really enemies in like dinosaurs or zombies or like ghosts or something like that. It's actually just surviving this collapsing island. Again, I feel like so much shame here. Manhunt 1 and 2, never played them. Just grabbed them for $2 each at a pawn shop because I knew that survival horror games would be expensive in the future. Same thing here, Siren, which I think technically is made by the people that made Silent Hill, so this almost was Silent Hill 5, I believe. From my understanding, is a pretty underrated game. I haven't yet to play it. So, Blood Rain, which is not a survival horror game, but is a horror-themed beat-em-up game, so I stuck it in survival horror. This is a pretty good game. It's kind of forgotten now. So, we'll see later, guys. We'll see. I think I'm going to play. I'll just say it. I think at some point we're going to be seeing Blood Rain gameplay. So, Resident Evil 4, I've played through all the Mercenaries, the single player. I've never played the 801 stuff, though. This is one of those games where I know it's on the GameCube, but nobody really had a fucking GameCube. So this is like one of the signature games to me of the PlayStation era, PlayStation 2 era, is this game. It is a classic. And I have other, so Veronica X, which I've never played through, I've played a little bit of, which is pretty fun. And then I played these with Black Kanye, and I haven't played the entirety of them. I just played them whenever we were hanging out, you could say. Outbreak 1 and Outbreak 2. I don't have the light gun Resident Evil games. Shame on me. I don't actually have light guns for the PlayStation 2. So here's all my first person and third person shooters we should be getting into now. The Medal of Honor trilogy. There's actually 4 games. There was one Vanguard which was released later, so there's actually a Medal of Honor quadrilogy on the PlayStation 2, but Vanguard, I rented it one time and it sucks. So basically, Medal of Honor Frontline probably is the best console, or the best first-person shooter developed for the console on PlayStation 2 or a competitor to that. This game is nowhere near as good as that game, but this game has co-op, and you can play bots in the multiplayer split screen, which is fucking hilarious. So this game is... I played this game a lot too. This game you can have a lot of fun as, but it's obviously not as good as this game. These are the same... what would you call it? Same engine they run on. This is a different engine, and Vanguard runs on this game's engine. This is good, but not great. It's just a very short game. You could play through it in like 3.5 hours or 4 hours or something. Not that the other games are particularly long either. I think this is one of the games I've played that has aged the worst of any game ever. Ghost Recon. The funny thing about this game, though, is that it talks about a Russian invasion of Georgia in 2008, and I think this is... so 2001. It's just kind of interesting. Star Wars Battlefront 1 and 2. Again, classic games for that generation. This game, I think, is underrated. Everybody goes back to this game, and they almost ignore Battlefront 1. The thing is, Battlefront 1 has a lot of interesting stuff in it that isn't in this game or any of the other games. It has like neutral enemies, so it has like you can, there's like guns and sand people or sand whatever and Tatooine, and they'll fight against you at the same time the Empire and the Republic are fighting against each other, which is fun. Again, this is much more vehicle based than this is. This is a very class based, different classes fighting in it, third person, and technically you can turn into a first person shooter on the console, I think. I know for sure I played it as a first person shooter on the PC, and I played it a lot on PC as well. But both great, outstanding games for the generation. So, Killzone, I've actually beaten Killzone, but this game definitely hasn't aged that well. Like, your weapons aren't accurate, they don't do shit, and you can die really quickly. People have suggested I do a Killzone playthrough. I think that would end up being even worse than the Turok Evolution playthrough. Because Turok Evolution has good stuff to it, but Killzone is kind of aged pretty shittily, by I think even worse than like Turok Evolution. What is in? So at one point I stuck both of these in here. So this is the Return to Castle Wolfenstein port for PlayStation 2. I played a little bit of that. Whenever I try to play Return to Castle Wolfenstein, or any Castle Wolfenstein game, I find them boring. I know that they're supposed to be like incredibly cocked politically now, so that's just sad. And again, like, this is gonna be a huge shame on me, especially considering the memes I've done on this channel, but I've only played the first like 10-15 minutes of Red Faction. The Serious Sam port for PlayStation 2, which isn't that good. You die too quickly compared to the Xbox port in the original game. I don't even know if it's a port. I think it's just a Serious Sam that's exclusive to PlayStation 2 and GameCube. Oh, this isn't even a first-person shooter. This is a game I got for $1 at a pawn shop. I don't have a light gun. I've streamed this game with Black Kanye because he has a light gun. Very, very good game. Again, I need to get a light gun. Battlefield 2, which is probably the best single-player Battlefield game ever made. Battlefield Modern Combat for PlayStation 2, Xbox, and I think 360. The best part about this is that it has hot swapping, which means that you can swap in between different AI throughout the entire battlefield, which is pretty awesome. This game is also notable because you actually play against the People's Republic of China, and you have the option of fighting against NATO and defeating them. So, the Half-Life port for PlayStation 1, which is the first time I played Half-Life, it's okay. It has this weird, like, thing where you play as these two girls, which is all puzzles. I don't even think there's any combat in that. It's kind of a weird mode. So here in a GameStop use case, because again I probably got this for like $1 or something, King Kong, the movie game, which is a really good first-person shooter with survival horror elements. It's really underrated, actually. It's a pretty interesting game. So I, at one point, and now I have it on Xbox, but this is one of those games that I got rid of on my PlayStation 2 when I got a 360, because I was like 10 years old, and I thought that, oh, well, I'll want to play a 360 game, and I won't want to play PlayStation 2 games ever again. And now my PlayStation 2 completely dethroned. Basically, I'm a Sony fanboy, and there was a small period in time where I actually traded in PlayStation 3 games, like the one that isn't here of this trilogy, Time Splitters 3. But anyway, Time Splitters 1 and Time Splitters 2. Time Splitters 2, again, like Medal of Honor Frontline, and this might actually technically even be better than Medal of Honor Frontline. This is a contender for one of the best console first-person shooters ever made, Time Splitters 2. This game is just simply put outstanding. Time Splitters 1 is pretty fun as well. Everybody that owns a PlayStation has played this at least once. A PlayStation 2, that is. SOCOM US Navy SEALs. Actually, a really shitty game. I tried to play this. Shell Shock Vietnam 1967. This game's port is inferior to the Xbox port and the PC port of Brothers in Arms Road to Hell 30. This actually is one of the best World War II games ever made. The problem with this game is that on the PlayStation 2, for some reason they didn't adapt the squad AI dynamics. So the squad AI essentially almost always kills itself, which leaves you by yourself to fight the army in an extremely strategic based first-person shooter. I've played this, but it's infinitely harder than on the PC or the Xbox version. Call of Duty 2, the big red one, probably hasn't aged that well. Again, like I said, Turok Evolution on PlayStation 2, which must be better than the Xbox port, because there was a lot of glitches when I was playing through the Xbox port that I do not remember on the PlayStation 2 version. Kind of an underrated game, and I'm going to say something right now, and people may stop following this channel for it, but GoldenEye actually is one of the games which has aged very, 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 very terribly. This game has aged pretty well. This is a third-person shooter James Bond game that actually has Sean Connery in it. It's pretty cool. And then we have GoldenEye Rogue Agent, which if you like 60s and 70s James Bond, you'll love this, because essentially you get to see most of the classic villains from the 60s and 70s in this. The problem with this game is it's extremely hard. So, again, as a first-person shooter, it's nothing to write home about. It's just pretty, you know, it's a good game for a PlayStation 2 console first-person shooter. But if you like classic-era James Bond, this is pretty awesome. So, again, another James Bond game. What is it? Agent Under Fire. This game is fucking hilarious. It has one of the most broken things in the history of video games. If you play the multiplayer in this game, you can essentially turn off the gravity and fly. And you can get like a grappling hook, which will zoom you across the map faster than you could ever walk. So you can turn off the gravity and turn on the zip line, like grappling hook, and then this is like that multiplayer. When you do that, is unlike any other first-person shooter experience you've ever had before, and I think that it's probably one of the most underrated multiplayer first-person shooter games ever made because of the ability to do that. Okay, so technically these are all first-person games. So we have Cabela's Dangerous Hunts 1 and 2. I've played through this game. This is actually probably the first-person shooter game I ever played. I haven't played through this. Again, it was just something I bought for $1 or so. But from my understanding, there's no like free hunt version. This is just a completely linear story game, which this isn't. This is a hunting game where you can be attacked by animals which are much more aggressive than they would be in real life. But you could just go after a deer, pick your rifle, pick your bow or whatever, and just go hunting after a deer. This, on the other hand, no, it's an actual first person shooter basically. Or more traditional first person shooter. Cabela's Alaskan Adventure, which is just another hunting game. A lot less fun than the Dangerous Hunts games because the animals act like real animals. The port for Deus Ex, which is kind of now forgotten, I think, Deus Ex. It's kind of been overshadowed by Doom and Halo. And this is a game that's been really, really overshadowed. Soldier of Fortune, which I really want to play, and I can't really get it to run on the PC, or I don't know where to even get it legally, basically. But this is a game I really want to play, but the problem is, as you guys will know, and I'm privy to do with all games, I got lost on the first level. This game at one point I think was considered one of the greatest first-person shooters, but it's kind of fallen into obscurity. It's got a lot of gore in it, which is amazing, and as you guys know, I do love me some gore. Area 51, which is a pretty good console first-person shooter. If you like conspiracy stuff, obviously the Illuminati and the Greys and everything are in it, which is pretty cool. So getting on the second layer here, Grand Theft Auto 3 and Grand Theft Auto Vice City. Whenever I play, I don't have San Andreas and I don't have, I think it's Liberty City Stories, because I've never really been that big of a Grand Theft Auto fan. Whenever I played these, I just run around, use cheats, and kill people. Now, my sister actually really likes Grand Theft Auto, so if my sister were to borrow any video games from me, what they'd end up being is like Grand Theft Auto. I actually have Grand Theft Auto 4 and Grand Theft Auto 5 simply so that she can play them. Oh look, knocked over a bunch of games back there. So again, an open world game. I have Spider-Man 1 on GameCube, but this is Spider-Man 2, which probably in retrospective is now one of the most beloved games of that generation. A very open world Spider-Man game. I think they made a new Spider-Man game which is similar to this. A game I played, a billion trillion hours of, Namco Museum. It has all these like remade versions of all these classic Namco games, which is interesting. Tetris Worlds, again, if I was listening to a podcast or talking to somebody on Discord or something like that, I could play this for hours and hours on end. So I don't have that many of these games, these rhythm kind of games. So I have Rock Band and Guitar Hero 2. If you try to play these anytime after they were popular, these games have aged so poorly, it's mind-boggling. If you try to like pop this in now, get your plastic guitar and play it, you'll never have played any video game in your entire life as boring as Guitar Hero or Rock Band. A weird like turn-based strategy game that I need to figure out more. See, I'm running into like, it's weird because there's a lot of turn-based strategy games on consoles, way more than there are unironically on like PC for some reason. It's really weird. So this is interesting if you ever play it. I don't even know how to pronounce it. So, and then I was talking about this earlier, Keshin, which probably is, I would say, one of the most underrated games ever made. This works really well because you have the control that a general in real life would have control over the different units in his army. Which is just interesting because you don't have direct control. And it's very like alternate paths. Another strategy game, which I've never even played, I just grabbed it for like $1, Commandos 2. And the reason I have so many strategy games, for instance like real-time strategy games like Army Men RTS, is because I didn't have a PC to play video games on. So I liked RTS games. So these are like two of the very first RTS games I ever played. I don't have the extremely rare version of Age of Empires 2, which might not even came out in the US on PlayStation 2. But I do have Aliens vs. Predator Extinction Armament RTS. I didn't have a PC game to play RTS games, so if I wanted to play them, I had to play these. This game is a pretty straightforward, good all around good RTS, and it's also on PC and I think GameCube. This game is an amazing concept, but it sucks because it's so simplified. It's much simpler than this game, actually. There's almost no strategy. You just make your army and move it forward, and it has extremely high challenge rate. It's kind of annoying, but you want to play it because it's an Alien versus Predator game. I'm trying to let my cat out of my room here. So Risk, Global Domination, which is just a Risk game. Again, if you're a kid and you didn't have any Risk to play with, like Monopoly or something, or you're on Discord and you just want to play Risk, then you can play Risk Global Domination. Max Payne, which I played like 30 minutes of, and yeah, maybe I should be ashamed of that I only played 30 minutes of it. Again, never really played a Metal Gear Solid game, I just simply own them. And I have 2 discs of this somehow, I don't even know why. There's 2 discs of Metal Gear Solid in here. I mean, eventually I should probably play them, but I have Metal Gear Solid 2 and 3. Again, I've gotten each of those for like $1, and I never played them. Headhunter, which from my understanding is a Metal Gear Solid ripoff. Oni, which is really interesting because it says Rockstar there, but it's also made by Bungie. But it's on PlayStation 2. Pretty weird game right there. Duology right here of classicness. Again, top 10 PlayStation 2 games ever made. Signature games for the console. The Katamari games. There is an Xbox Katamari game, and now there's a Switch one. But really, really like the Katamari games. Huge fan. This game's actually pretty underrated. Neo Contra. I streamed this at one point with Black Kanye, and it went pretty well. Just really fun. It's a game you should play with a buddy, obviously. And here, unironically, is a bunch of like RTS game or RPG games, and I don't even like RPGs. So Dark Cloud. I've never played any of these, and I just bought them. See, $2 at a garage sale. Final Fantasy X, Final Fantasy X2, Kingdom Hearts, and because they were getting rid of all their, at one point they're pretty much getting rid of all their merchandise on Amazon for PlayStation 2. I picked this up, Persona 3, which everybody and their dog wants me to do some kind of Persona thing, so maybe it'll end up being Persona 3 someday. Again, picked this up for $1, I have no idea what it is. Some mech game. Secret Weapons of Normandy, which basically was unplayable. I don't even know what the fuck I was supposed to do in this game. I couldn't figure it out. And I actually like these type of games. Like air combat games. They're actually pretty fun. Here we get in the fighting game. So King of Fighters 9, or is it it's King of Fighters 11. King of Fighters is too technical for my taste in fighting games. Dragon Ball Z, Budokai. I really like DBZ Fighters. I haven't played this one that much though. DBZ Fighters is actually one of the better fighting games on the PlayStation 4. Tekken 4, which I have. Again, I'm not actually that big a Tekken fan. Virtual Fighter 4, again, I haven't played it that much. I got it for $3. Again, personally too technical for my tastes. Bloody Roar 3. The irony is, Bloody Roar is one of the most underrated fighting game series ever, in my opinion. These games are awesome. The problem is that it's a furry game. Yeah, it's furry fighting, which is kind of weird. You get to turn into monsters and animals and shit. I have my copy of Soul Calibur 2 on Xbox, ironically, but this is Soul Calibur 3. I think the first 3 Soul Calibur games really are just total classics. War of the Monsters, which I talked about a little bit before, probably the best kaiju game ever made. Just a pretty outstanding game you got here. And now I think it's slowly become one of the bigger cult games or signature games of the PlayStation 2. Because if you ever go and you get to like go to like the PlayStation Store, this is always included in the games that they always put on PlayStation 3 and PlayStation 4. So, Mortal Kombat Shaolin Monks, this came in a set. Mortal Kombat Deception, Mortal Kombat Armageddon. I don't have Mortal Kombat 5 Deadly Alliance on PlayStation 2. It's actually on my Xbox. Again, Deception is too technical for me. Armageddon has so much content, you can play it for hours and hours. And Shaolin Monks, really, this is more of a beat-em-up game, like a 3D beat-em-up game, but this is heavily story-based. This is just like the new Mortal Kombat games, like Mortal Kombat 9, I think they call it, or Mortal Kombat 8. This actually is a remake of the first 3 or first 2 games, but it's told in a highly story-based version, but mostly as a beat-em-up. The newer game that they did a remake of the first 3 games on, that's just simply called Mortal Kombat. I think people might call it Mortal Kombat 8 or Mortal Kombat 9 or something. That's pretty fun too, but this you can play 2 people and it's a beat-em-up, so it's kind of a different experience if you like Mortal Kombat. Getting into platformers here, again, Dollar Buy, I've never played it. Jak and Daxter, I think this is the first one. Dollar Buy, never played it. Psychonauts, I think this is something like you're supposed to like. It's like a cult game. It's snarky and shit. Fuck it. What's in here? What's in here? The best game on the entire console's in there. Okay, Sonic Unleashed. This is actually a pretty good Sonic 3D game. The problem is like, I can't find all the fucking emeralds, so I got stuck. Sonic Heroes, which I suck ass at. It is fun, but I suck huge ass at it. And Sonic Riders. Oh wait, shit. Sonic Riders, which is kind of, I don't know. It's not that bad either. It's kind of underrated, actually. If the fucking, like, thing will hold in there. Another platformer game I just simply have, Ty the Tasmanian Tiger. Never fucking played it. Got it for $1 at a pawn shop. Okay, and here's a giant pile of sports games that I really have no interest in. Every single one of these sports games I got for free, by the way. So Madden 06, Madden 09. This is in a Rock Band case, but I literally was like, my friend's dad was a garbage man and just gave me these games for free. He found them in a garbage can, so I got all these sports games for free. FIFA 2008, NBA Live 2006, NBA Live 2008. Anyway, guys, so all this shit has been thrown around, but there's my PlayStation 1 and PlayStation 2 collection for you. Hopefully the camera work won't make you puke. Have a good day. I also have Panzer General and Warhawk, which I forgot to talk about. I've never played Warhawk again. Actually, I never even bought this. I got this for free. Panzer General, I've tried to play it. I have no idea how to play it. Again, I like turn-based strategy, and I don't know. There's like, I'm winning, but then there's only a certain amount of turns you can make and I lose. So, yeah, anyway, thanks for watching, guys.